Hey guys, welcome back to yet another Wednesday checkout, and today I've got a special one for you. Are you still recording? You still recording? You recording? Everything's recording. Okay, good. So today we've got a very special one. We are learning to color grade basic footage, right? This is something that we've shot here in Cape Town. It's on the beach. It's a normal day lighting. No special camera. It's my R6 camera shot in C-Log 3. So it's special in the sense that it's log footage, but you don't need the log footage. It's basically just increased dynamic range. So if you've got footage in a standard profile, that's a Rec 709 color gamut. If you don't know what it is, go look it up. It's still fine. This will still be applicable to your footage. It's a really fun experience. I think this is a great introduction for us to color grading. And yes, we are going to learn to use all of the tools on the Davinci Resolve. This surely is a fun experience, a fun experiment. We are learning how to break things and how to fix things. We're learning, first of all, color correction, and then after color correction, we're going into color grading, right? So there's two differences. The one is color correction, where we get the image as close as possible to reality. And then after that, we're going to color grading, where we're actually introducing a look. So it can be a dramatic look, it can be a dark look, movie style look. So that's basically the setup for color grading we have. Let's get into Davinci Resolve and get this amazing color grade started. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our basic node structure. I'm not going to explain what we do at this stage. We'll go through it as I go on. But for now, let's add 8 serial nodes. So just simply Command S, 4, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to start naming these. So first we're going to do a input device transform, and then we're going to do a output device transform at node number 8. I'll explain what this is in a moment. Let's just rearrange these. So firstly, I want to fix the exposure. Then we're going to do primaries. Then we're going to play around with our vector scope. Vector scope. So I'm just naming these node structures so that we know what we're going to do. So we kind of plan out what we want to do with our grade. So primaries, vector scope, and then we're going to add some on the HDR, so our logs there. Then this is where the fun is going to be. So this is going to be our, I think they call it a wave warper. What do they call this? Color warper. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to add some glow. So we'll go through this shortly. We'll see if we want to do this. I think this is going to be my basic setup for my node structure. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a color space transform to our input device transform and output device transform. So right after doing this, going to effects, type in color. I'll explain this in a second. So color space transform to node number 1 and the same to node number 8. Okay, so Gideon, what is a color space transform? So before we understand color space transform, we need to understand this graph over here, which is our gamuts, right? So this is what they call a chromacity diagram, right? Let me enlarge this. So a chromacity diagram basically illustrates the type of colors we can capture in our cameras. So each camera has a different color gamut. Generally speaking, a more expensive camera will be able to capture more colors. So let's talk about the very basic one, which is also the color gamut which we export our YouTube videos to, and this is called Rec 709. So as you can see, this triangle here illustrates the colors that can be captured in Rec 709. So we shot it in a bit of a better camera. We shot it with Canon in C-Log 3. So that is going to be your Canon Cinema gamut. And that would typically lie somewhere around about, let's say, Rec 2020. I think it's somewhere out here. I'm speaking on a correction. But as you can see, with reference to Rec 2020, which is our yellow triangle here, it has the capability to capture much more colors. So the raw data we have captures a much bigger variety of colors in the spectrum. So what we want to do with a color space transform is, at the end, we want to export it in Rec 709, but before we export our log footage to a Rec 709 color format, we want to edit it in a different color format, retaining as much data as possible in that color format. So the one we're going to use is this Davinci Resolve white gamut. So as you can see, this covers basically the biggest color spectrum on this schematic diagram. So how do we do this? Let's go back to our image. So what we're going to do is we're going to say input color space. So this was shot on a Canon, so Canon Cinema gamut, and the input gamma is going to be C-log3. So this is what we shot it in. Now the output, so this is the output for this node, so node number 1. So the output for this node is what we want to edit our footage in. So this is then going to be Davinci white gamut, and the output gamma is going to be Davinci intermediate. Okay, so this is what it looks like. But now what we want to do is, at the end of it, we want to export it to Rec 709. So the input is going to be Davinci Resolve white gamut, Davinci Resolve intermediate for the input gamma, and then the output is now going to be Rec 709 and then gamma 2.4. That is the standard for exports for YouTube videos. Okay, great. So now, as you can see, this exposure of this image is really out. So we're going to jump straight into node number 2, which is our exposure. Quickly fix our exposure. What I'm going to do is we're going to go under our primaries. I'm going to do a simple gamma gain. So by looking at our scopes, the parades, I'm going to drag the gamma down and then lift the gain. So this is again a feeling, so we need to figure out where is the best look for this. And the only thing we're trying to achieve with this node, is to get as much detail as possible. So we want to get as much detail as we can in our highlights, same as the midtones, and then same for the shadows, the darker areas. Okay, I think that's pretty good for now. Let's move on to our primaries. So for our primaries, what we want to do is we want to do a very, very basic color correction. So what you can see from this image is we've got a lot of blues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our midtones, our gamma, just going to erase it slightly, add a little bit of yellow. And that is already much better. Let's maybe just choose a little bit of a better hero shot. There we go. So let's look at the before and after for this. So if you didn't know this trick, if you click on your node, on the number, it deactivates and activates it. Another key to do this is if you click on your node and simply hit Command D, it will also activate and deactivate it. Okay, so that looks much better. Probably a little bit too yellow, but let's leave it there for now. Next, I'm going to go to our vector scopes. So what I want to do is we want to completely balance this image. Let's go to the vector scope. And what we want to do with these 3 nodes is we don't want to introduce a look to our footage. The only thing we want to do is we want to balance it as best as possible. So we want to get it to a place where it looks as close as possible to reality. So we've done our primary correction. You can do this probably in 1 node as well. I chose to do it in 3. It gives me a bit more space to correct if I did something wrong. So under a vector scope, the trick we can learn here is what we want to do is we want to balance this. So you'll see there's a midpoint over here, and we want to balance this so that this is as close as possible to the center. So a little trick I learned, doesn't always work, but to reduce your saturation, and then you'll see, if you look here, it's a bit skew. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my offset and slightly drag it towards the middle. So that's more or less the middle. So let's reset our saturation. And what you'll see now is we've done a great job in adding a little bit of color, or actually correcting the color. But what you'll notice from this is immediately you can see it's a little bit skew, and it seems like we have a little bit too much green and yellow into this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our offset and just ever so slightly correct it. So I think that's what we want. So it's a very subtle change. Let's just go a little bit more over here. Okay, let's see if I'm going to deactivate these nodes so that I just don't confuse you. So let's see what we did with this vector scope. So it's a very slight change But where you can see this is if you look at on the shirt itself, you'll see there's a little bit of blues around here. And the moment we do this correction, it looks a lot better. Okay, final thing we want to do is we want to go into our log. So again, we're going to go to our primaries, and at our primaries, you'll see there's a tab here for log. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to our shadows. Let's first change our scopes so that we can see what we're doing. Waveform, parade. That's the one we want. So only thing we're looking at for this is we're specifically going to focus on our shadows. And what we want to do is we just want to balance this. So as you can see, we've got a lot more reds than what we have greens and blues in our shadows. So I'm going to take our shadows and I'm going to move it away from the red, actually towards the red, and just balance it out. So let's see the difference there. Okay, how do I do this? There we go. So if we look at the darker areas on this guy's shirt, look at the difference we made there. We just removed a lot of blues there, added a little bit of red there. So it looks more neutral. So it's a very small, subtle change, but it does make a difference in the end of your footage. So let's just reset this. Okay, so let's see what we did so far. I'm going to deactivate these nodes. So after our exposure, we worked on our primaries, then we did our vector scope, and then we did our log. Okay, so now this is where the actual fun starts, guys. This is where we're going to go to our color warper. And what we're going to do with our color warper is introduce a kind of split toning to this image. So split toning is essentially where we add different colors to our highlights than our shadows. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to subtract or remove our subject, or hero, which in this case is me. We want to remove me from the background. And you'll see what I mean with this right now. So I'm going to go to this color warper tool. Let's go to the tool over here, hue and saturation. Change our grid to 12 by 12. This is already set to 12 by 12. And what we're going to do now, this is an amazing tool. So the moment you drag over your footage, you'll see there's a color picker there. And what do they call it? A qualifier, right? So that's your qualifier. So if I go in the sky here, it's going to specifically select that color. If I click and drag, I'm able to change the hue of that color. How amazing is that? So what I want to do, let me just undo that. So I want to add a slight teal to this image. I'm going to overdo it a bit, and I'm going to show you there's some point where we break this image as well. I mean, if you look at this, this really doesn't look good. So be careful not to break your image. I'm going to undo that and add a little bit of teal. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is choose the skin. So we want to add a little bit of yellows to the skin. I'm going to click and drag on the skin. Okay, I'm going to leave it over there. So let's look at the difference this one tool made to our color grade. I mean, it's night and day. So this is perhaps a little bit too yellow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our, I think this is Chroma Luma. So again, we're going to choose the skin. I'm going to, if you look at your indication here or your graph. So if we click and drag to the left, we're going to add a yellow hue, and this to the right, we're going to add a blue hue. If we drag the mouse up, we're going to introduce Luma, a light. And if you drag it down, we're going to make the image darker. So just to illustrate it, I'm going to click on the sky, left, add yellow, right, we add blue, up, we increase the light or the luminance value, and down, we reduce the luminance value. So let me just undo that. Undo again. Okay, so we're back to where we started. I'm going to click on the skin, and what I want to do is just play with it a little bit. I think that's maybe a little bit too dark, too yellow. Okay, I'm going to go back to our saturation, hue saturation, and just find the right skin tone color. I think it should be around about there. Okay, let's start. Look at the difference again. So I'm oversaturating at this point, but just to show you the amazing capabilities we get with this color warper tool, and to show you the effect of the teal versus orange, I really think the saturation is a little bit too strong. We need to drag the saturation down a little bit, and there we go. So yeah, that's the color warper tool. Now as a final touch, what I'm going to do is we're going to go to node number 7, and we're going to add an effect called glow. So let's drag it on our node effect. So the first thing I'm going to do is say I'm going to keep it to add. Let's just drag our shine threshold back so you'll see what the effect does. Let's choose somewhere we like. I think that's a good look. Now what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of color. It's the sun, so I'm going to add a little bit of a yellow color to it. So I'm here down left at the bottom. Choose a color over, let's say, probably there. And I just want to reduce the global blend a little bit. The effect is a little bit harsh. So I'm going to leave it over there. That's the difference that glow node made. Okay, guys, let's just review what we did. So starting from node number 1, which was our input device transform, we converted our footage from log cinema gamut to Davinci Resolve's white gamut. So this is what we wanted to edit in. Then as node number 8, we went to our output device transform. And this is where we said, okay, we edited in Davinci white gamuts, so color space, but we now want to export it in Rec 709. Then we fixed our exposure. Next thing we did is we played around with the primary, so we took out a little bit of blue from our image. Then we did our vector scope. So with our vector scope, you'll see there's a slight change in temperature. We added a little bit of yellow to it, and this is what we did to further balance our image. And then with log, we fixed our shadows. Then we did our look with our color warper, which is the split toning effect with the teal and orange. And as a last node, just to add a little bit more effect to this image, give it that dramatic feeling, we added a glow node. Okay guys, I hope you learned as much with this video as I did. It surely was a very nice thing for me to do. I really enjoyed it. If you like color grading, I must say Davinci Resolve, even not the studio, the what do you call it? Not a, let's call it free version. Amazing tool for color grading. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Davinci Resolve is one of the leading color grading platforms or software there is at this stage. So if you don't have it, go get it. It's really worth doing it. It's a very fun experience. Quite a steep learning curve, color grading, but very fun experience, and it does a lot for our footage, our feel, and that together with being able to shoot good footage, being able to color grade the good footage, and doing proper sound design. I mean, that is the key to a good video, right? Okay guys, that's it for me today. Thank you for watching again, and we'll see you next Wednesday for another Wednesday checkout. Okay, bye.